Well guys, I tell you what, it's not very often that we get days like this. It's perfect weather out here, just cold enough that you need a hoodie, but if you do too much moving around, you're probably gonna start sweating. We don't get very many of these here in Ohio, especially this time of year before it turns super nasty, rainy, wet, to blisteringly hot back to winter again. So I'm taking the advantage of the weather to get out here and do some testing on some new toys that I have in. And you guys have seen this one pop up a couple times over the course of the last several videos, and I thought it would just be a good idea to come out here and do a quickie on the changes that I've made to this Glock 19, because to tell you the truth, it's getting harder with new regs at YouTube. I can't link to product pages. I can just, you know, normally I would be able to just say, hey, it's over here, go see what it is specifically, but now I guess I'm gonna do a dedicated video so I can point you to this video to tell you about it. That way I don't have to do it every single time it appears on camera and everybody has a question, because we've gotten lots of questions about this one and the changes that I've made to it. So the internal components are all stock, like the trigger, things like that. I like to keep that stock. A lot of people will argue about the thing needing a lighter trigger or a less sloppy trigger. I think the Glock trigger is fine compared to a lot of other stock triggers that are out there. People will argue with me over that, but a lot of the things that I've changed on this thing are directly related to suppressor testing. So, gun is empty and unloaded. You'll notice that there are some excess raised suppressor sights on there specifically for that, but the barrel and the other components on here are all by Blacklist Industries, and the barrel that I was using, the threaded barrel that I was using, was a Palmetto barrel, and it just seemed like it wasn't performing at the level that I thought it should. So I went ahead and contacted my people at Blacklist Industries, and we did a full rebuild on this thing. So if we break this thing apart, so if we look inside here, we have their spring and guide rod, metal construction on the guide rod. And this is actually their medium weight spring. We've tested 3 springs from them: their standard weight, their medium, which is this one, and their lightweight. So to start with, the standard weight spring works just like a standard weight spring. It's just a replacement spring if you wear yours out. We'll go all the way down to the lightest weight spring for a second to talk about it. It's really great if you're like a competition shooter or something like that, because it will allow you to run the 165 grain projectiles. Specifically, we use the Freedom Munitions 165 grain Hush rounds, basically the submachine gun subsonic ammunition that typically will not run in a Glock 19 at all. If you throw that spring in here, then this thing will run that very reliably. 165. Okay, runs 165 grain, no problem with the lightest spring. So you get your fast follow-up shots from shooting those really light loads. Definitely something that if you're in that realm, that's something you should certainly look into. We picked this one because if you add a silencer to that light spring in this gun, there's just too much weight out on the front end and it weighs the thing down. And because of that, there's just not enough return on the spring to put it fully back into battery. And that is actually somewhat common even with a standard weight spring when the gun gets dirty. So keep that in mind. If you're not running the thing suppressed, if you're like a competition shooter or something like that, the lightweight spring is for you. However, if you use the medium weight spring, I believe it is 15 pounds, this thing is great for shooting that 147 grain. It'll run it suppressed, unsuppressed, doesn't matter, doesn't care, and still it will run the normal 115 grain ball ammo, no problem. So moving on, I'm going to set my spring right there on my tripod. If we look at the barrel here, it comes in a couple different colors. I picked gold because I thought it was the coolest, and I don't own any gold guns. So the thread protector on this thing is actually very high quality. Normally when you get a threaded barrel from various places, you might have a cheap piece of metal on the end or something like that. The Glock standard threaded barrel comes with a plastic piece that will last you exactly 0 rounds on the range. You'll probably lose it before you come to the range because it's not even threaded, it's just a snap-on piece. So high quality piece of thread protection that you can lose later. But if you look at the end of the barrel there, there's an O-ring that keeps that on there and situated. You can see that the barrel is fluted to reduce its weight, and it is just all around a good looking barrel with, of course, the blacklist branding on there. Now, to put that thing in, you do have to take the thread protector off to be able to get it. I'm going to set this aside because we're going to use those threads here in just a second. Put our guide rod back in there, and one more note on the guide rod. The way this thing works is there's a bushing there at the end. You put that on there, or put the spring on there, put the bushing on there, and then this is a hex key there, just a little bit of Loctite, throw that thing on there, and you are good to go. I've got a couple thousand rounds on this thing in its form with the Loctite that I put on it one time. So one-time application is good. I suggest the use of red because it is a component towards the front of the gun, and it's going to get a little bit hot there. So going back to the frame, we have 2 mods on the frame here. Obviously the matching pin kit that you can see in there, and they just kind of complement the thing. I don't know that you really need steel pins in your Glock. They seem to work fine with the ones that they come with, but if you're already putting a bunch of colored parts on the thing, then why not have it match? But the other thing that we added here was this flared magwell down here. Very quick installation, screw there, and that thing's in there and gives you a little bit of flare there at the bottom, but you'll notice that it doesn't really increase its dimension very much. Gives you a little bit of a finger groove to hang on to there at the base. It is aluminum construction, blacklist branding on the bottom of it there, but it doesn't increase its dimension very much, and I'll get a tight-end picture so you guys can see where the frame ends versus where that extension begins. So we'll go ahead and put this back together, and that is an overview of the parts, but now that this thing is set up, we're going to go ahead and suppress it and show you guys what it can do. So Griffin Optimus on the gun, and we can go ahead and throw these away. And what I have here are some 104, man, that ETS mag is stiff in that carrier. 147 grain, like I mentioned. And we can just, I'm just gonna throw some into the berm. Okay, so that's 147 grain, but then we can also go up to our standard weight projectiles, 115 grain. These are full powered ammo. And as you can see, the gun runs fine. So I would say that the optimum spring for everything that we want to do is that 13 pound or that 15-pound spring. So that is a look at some of the edgy upgrades that I've made to this Glock 19 for the purposes of suppressor testing, and that way you guys will know when it pops up over the course of the next year what it is I'm working with. And when other people ask, what parts did you put in your Glock, that looks cool, I'm going to rely on you guys to grab that link that is up above to comment in the comment section down below to them in response. You guys are really good at that. I really appreciate you guys, basically taking something off my plate to do. And I really enjoy making these videos for you guys, and hopefully we'll be here on YouTube tomorrow to make more videos for you. But if we're not, make sure that you go over to full30.com and follow us over there should YouTube decide to go full stupid and kick us off or something like that for some arbitrary reason that we have no idea what it is. You know what I mean? So again, thank you guys for tuning into the VSO Gun Channel, and hopefully we'll see you guys on a future video.